Aktien Landbier.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is one from Beer Heaven, Franconia in Bavaria, and it's from the Aktien Brewery, who are based in a place called Bayreuther, which is in central, or more or less central, Franconia. And if you're not aware, Franconia, the reason I call it Beer Heaven is because it's got the largest density or largest concentration of breweries in the world. I think there's over 200 in that region alone, and some of them are absolute fucking diamonds. They produce some fantastic beer, and I, for one, am definitely going to get there at one point when all this COVID nonsense is over. I should have went this year, should have went last year. COVID put a dampener on that, and it means that I'm just sitting here in my room talking about it when I really should be going over there and filming it all, but we are where we are now. Anyway, the nearest I'm going to get to that is having some of this stuff, and this is a Landbier, which is a bit of an ambiguous term because Landbier is a style that is very hit and miss. I will say that for one. I've had Landbiers in the past and I've not been impressed with them at all. And other times I've had Landbiers and they've been absolutely outstanding. So you could argue that's like any style of beer, but the term Landbier is very loose. Literal translation means country beer, and the general characteristic of the style is it's a beer that is preferred in the locality, and it's made from local ingredients. Now, there's some very good examples of Landbier. The Potts Landbier is outstanding, and that for me is probably one of the best so far that I've tasted. But Potts are from northern Germany, not from southern Germany, certainly not from Bavaria. So again, it's such an ambiguous term. It's a bit like Dortmunder export. There's no real definition of it because Dortmunder export is effectively just a Helles or a lager, if you like. Landbier, well, this is interesting. Landbier, usually, from what I've had recently, the majority of them are like a Maltzen. That's what they sort of come across as. The Potts Landbier is quite a dark beer. It's got more in common with an alt beer, from what I remember. But this stuff is classed as a dunkel. Now, Landbier normally is an amber colour from memory. However, the Potts Landbier, again, is the exception to the rule. That's slightly darker from what I remember. And this is classed as a dunkel, and I do like dunkel beers from Germany. They're usually bottom fermented, very malt forward, with roasted malt, and very, very flavoursome. I've mentioned in another video that I do like darker beers. I do prefer them to lighter beers. Don't get me wrong, I like light beers as well, but if there's a choice, I always go for the dark. You tend to find there is more flavour in darker beers, simply because there's more roasted malt in there. So with Landbier, you really have to sort of approach it with an open mind, because it can be anything. And I'm intrigued to see what this is because it comes from a good region in Germany. They have some very, very good beers from this. I've tried their Keller beer. Their Keller beer is fantastic. It's really good. Not as good as the Hacker Shore, but it is very good. So I'm quite looking forward to this one. A little bit about the brewery. They're quite interesting. They were formed in 1857 in Bayreuth. In 1965, they merged with Maisels. I'm not sure whether you've heard of Maisels or Meisels. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but M-A-I-S-E-L is. They do a very, very good Hefeweizen or Hefeweizen, as they call it in Germany. Found that out the other day. And they sort of merged. They traded shares, or Maisels put some money into the Aktien Brewery. Hence the name Aktien. It's Aktien is like a conglomerate, a PLC, if you like. It basically means there's shares being bought in their public limited company, a PLC, and that's the literal translation of Aktien. But Mosels have said that they will allow them to brew and operate independently. The good thing about that is the two breweries are literally 100 metres apart, so they share bottling plants, they share resources, because obviously there's no point in creating two bottling plants 100 metres from each other. It just doesn't make economic sense. So that's how they do it. So Mosels Brewery and the Aktien Brewery are intertwined, and they're two good breweries from what I've had so far. But I am dying to try this, so let's stop gassing and let's see what this is all about. Right, this is a 5.3% 500ml bottle. It is 19 on the IBU scale, which is quite sweet when you consider what this beer is. I'm assuming this is a bottom fermented dunkel lager or dark lager, and yeah, it conforms to the Reinheitsgebot. You know me, that doesn't mean anything. Hops are in here. They've come from the Hallertau region. I think they contain Spartan hops in this as well, and they did mention another one, obviously Hallertau hops, but I'm not sure whether it's the Hallertau tradition or just Hallertau hops in general. They don't really make that clear. I wish brewers would do that. Just give us a list of the type of ingredients that are in there. But we are where we are. Let's get this open. Let's see what's going on. Right, flip top bottle. Oh, well, that's fucking disappointing. I wanted to hear the plop. If you're of a certain age, the word plop just makes you laugh. If you've got the mentality of a 5-year-old, well, this does look like a dunkel. I'm drinking it in a Guinness glass because this is the sort of glass they suggest drinking it out of. What does it smell like? It certainly looks good. I will say that. The head looks fantastic on it. It does look like a dunkel, doesn't it? Oh yeah, roasted malt, sweet roasted malt, bread. You get the gist. Some fruit in there as well. This fucking glass, you know how heavy? It's heavier than my phone. You see the state of my phone. I'll tell you what, you talk into that for about 5 or 10 minutes, your arm starts hanging off. Oh, this smells good. Really good. And look at the head on that. That is absolutely superb. Fantastic. Cannot wait. Let's get it down the hatch. Prost. Nice. Well, it is nice. Lots of hop character on this too. I thought this was going to be all about the malt, but it's got a little bit in common with an ESB. Would you believe? The hops are that that big on this. That's quite nice. However, the roasted malt character on this isn't that big. I thought it was going to be bigger, and it isn't. It's a little bit subdued. If anything, there's a little bit more emphasis on the hops, and as I say, it does put me in mind slightly of a bitter Perhaps, yeah, well, I suppose ESB, you're looking at about 5.5%. This is 5.3. So, yeah. That usual sweetness that you get from dunkels, it's not in here. And it makes a change. It's a little bit different. And it's quite nice. And it reminds me of an English beer. And that's very good. It also reminds me of the Aktien Landbier, which was excellent. And this makes a change. I wasn't too sure about this when I first started drinking it. I thought it was going to be your typical dunkel. Don't get me wrong, some of them dunkels are absolutely fantastic. My favourite, of course, being the Inga Alt Bayerisch dunkel. But this, it's almost like an alt beer, a bitter. Put it this way, it doesn't taste like it comes from Franconia. I would have expected a lot more sweetness on this, but that's not there. And that does really make a change. Very, very drinkable. Now, when I talk about the flavours are slightly subdued. They're not big on this. It's cold, I will give you that. That's come out the fridge. But that's the way this kind of beer, it's a bottom fermented beer. It's supposed to be refreshing. My fucking arm is killing me. The weight of this fucking glass. And I'm not a weakling. Or am I? Maybe I am. But that glass is super heavy. Look at the size of that base. I don't know how fucking weigh so. You got it with that would fucking knock you right out. It's really good, and I've drunk all that so far, and it's just going down really, really nice. The thing I'm going to take away from this is the drinkability. It's quite full-bodied, but it is so drinkable. It's one of them beers where I keep drinking looking for the flavours, but I'm just drinking more and more of it, so that's always a good sign. I do get that in quite a few beers. I've had to put the beer down now. I think I've done something to my arm. My fucking shoulder is killing me. Maybe holding that fucking phone up for too long. But I'll tell you something, this is not bad at all. Quite impressed. It's a little bit different. In a blindfold test, I would not say this came from Bavaria. It hasn't got the big roasted malt, the big sweetness that you normally find on the dark beers or the dark lagers that you get from that region. This is more in common with the stuff you get up north in northern Germany. Not quite as bitter as an alt, but it's getting there. And it's nice. That for me is really good. For the simple reasons, it's different. It's reminding me of some of the North German beer styles, i.e. the Alt beer, some of the North German land beers, the Aktien Landbier in particular, and it's very drinkable. It is really drinkable. It just goes down superbly. The flavours aren't obtrusive. They are there, don't get me wrong. You can taste some of the roasted malt. There is quite a bit of hop character on there, but for me this is all about necking it and sessioning it because it is really nice. I do like that and I'm quite impressed. So what is the verdict on Aktien Landbier? Well, yes, it's different, I will say that. Now, when I say it's different, it's not your typical Bavarian dunkel, even though this is called a Frankish dunkel. Is it typical of the style? I don't think it is, because certainly on the Bavarian dunkels that I have tried, and some of the other dark beers that I've tried from sort of middle Germany, there's a little bit more sweetness than there is on this, and there's a lot more malt character, roasted malt character, and the sweetness and the roasted malt, it does make for a very nice flavoursome beer. This, on the other hand, the flavours are subdued. You haven't got that sweetness, and as a result, it's putting me in mind of the stuff you get from northern Germany, i.e. a very good alt beer, a Landbier from the Potts Brewery, or the Potts Landbier, and it makes a change, and I'm quite impressed. I wasn't sure at first, because I was looking for that sweetness and the big malt. I wasn't going to find it, but the drinkability on it is, for me, the best part of it. It just goes down really nice, and there's a lot of the hop bitterness on there, on the finish as well, which puts me in mind of an English beer, an English ale, I should say. But it's good. I like it. It's different, and for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, a solid 8 out of 10. Now, I've had a couple from this brewery before. I think I've tried their lager. I've tried their Keller beer, which was really good. That did impress me. And I'm going to remember this Landbier, because that is different, and it's a good one. Is it the best? Is it as good as the pot stuff? I don't think so. I really should, if I was going to. I'm not going to commit myself, but I think the pots may just edge it, but I think I should really do a back-to-back with that. But this is good. I mean, you can get this on Beers of Europe currently, so have a look on there, and if it's there, if they've got it in stock, that's the thing with Beers of Europe, you never know. They'll list it, but it'll be out of stock. But if it's in stock, it's quite cheap, I think. It's under £3. That's well worth it. If you're a fan of bitters, if you're a fan of English ale, if you're a fan of alt beer, then I suggest you get this. The hop bitterness is not as intense as the styles I just mentioned, but it's sort of getting there, and it's trying to. I don't know. This is just my opinion. Maybe it's not what the brewers wanted to do, but that's my opinion. That's what I'm sort of getting from it. But it's good either way, regardless of any of that. This is a good beer, and I like it. It's going to get a solid 8.5 out of 10, and it's definitely recommended. And remember, beer is working class. Champagne.